society is actually caused by violence depicted on...
Uncle Eddie. He was in charge of the chickens and the pigs. Uncle Eddie had two eyes, but he was a bit like Cecil because one of them was closed over. He walked by our house one day when my ma was painting the gate. God love him, she said to herself, but loud enough for me to hear her. My ma mentioned Uncle Eddie when we were having our dinner. God love him, I said, and my dad smacked me shoulder. You could climb up the bales of hay, right up into the barn. We'd dive down from one level to another level of bales. We never hurt ourselves, it was brilliant. We saw mice. I never saw any, but I heard them. I said I saw them. Kevin saw loads of them. I saw a squashed rat. The marks of a tire were on it. We tried to light it, but it wouldn't go. 3 fire brigades came out from town to put the fire out, but they weren't able to. It happened during the night. The fire was gone out when we got up the next morning, and our ma said we couldn't go near the barn, and she kept her eye on us to make sure we didn't. I got up into the apple tree, but I couldn't see anything. They found a box of matches beside the barn. That was what we heard. Mrs. Parker from up in the cottages told our ma. Mr. Parker worked for Donnelly, drove the tractor and went to the pictures with Uncle Eddie every Saturday afternoon. They'll dust them for fingerprints, I told Sinbad. And if they find your fingerprints, they'll come and arrest you and put you in the Artane Boys Band, because that's what they do with bad young fellas. And they'll make you play the triangle because of your lips, I told him. His eyes were all wet. I hated him. Uncle Eddie was burnt to death in the fire. We heard that as well. Mrs. Byrne from 2 houses up told me ma. She whispered it and they blessed themselves. Maybe it's for the best, said Mrs. Byrne. I was dying to get down to the barn to see Uncle Eddie if they hadn't taken him away. Me ma made us have a picnic in the garden. She got up out of the picnic so she could talk to me dad without us hearing. I knew what she was telling him about Uncle Eddie. Was he? Said me dad. Me ma nodded. He never told me when he come up the road with me there, said me dad. All he said was, grand, grand. There was a gap, and they burst out laughing. Uncle Eddie wasn't dead at all. He wasn't even hurt. The barn was never green again. It was bent and buckled. The roof was crooked like the lid of a can. It swung and creaked. The big door was put leaning up against the yard wall. It was all black. One of the walls was gone. The black on the walls fell off, and the whole thing became brown and rusty. Everyone said that someone from the new corporation houses had done it. Later, about a year later, Kevin said that he'd done it, but he didn't. He was in Cortown in a caravan on his holidays when it happened. I didn't say anything.
Booker Part 2, tomorrow at midnight on BBC2.
Through the eyes of those who endured the worst crisis to confront America this century.
We were poor, we were dependent.
A time not only of terrible economic depression, but of hopelessness.
I was convinced that I was going to die one night.
I don't think it. I know damn well there would have been a revolution. Yeah, Roosevelt had not got elected, and I'd have been damn part of that revolution.
BBC2 presents a new series, The Great Depression, Saturday at 7:20.
Dillinger, a name which inspired fear in the American public, a ruthless gangster and official public enemy #1. Lawrence Tierney is the eponymous Hood, now on BBC2.